Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Tech in 10, the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs post-game show from the Ruston Daily Leader. I am sports editor Matt Bellinson coming to you from Fayetteville, Arkansas, after Louisiana Tech's 35-14 loss to the Arkansas Razorbacks. One of these games where you're going to look back and say, if you come out ready to play in the first quarter and first half, this could have been a ball game, but for Tech, it was more of the same. Your defense comes out and holds Arkansas to 3 punts and 2 takeaways through 5 drives, and you come away with 0 points. I think you had 22 yards of total offense in the first quarter. It was just one of those, it was one of those games where if you're Louisiana Tech, you knew it was going to be an uphill climb. And your defense comes out ready to play from the opening jump and gives you an opportunity to win this game, and you squander it. And so I think if you're Sonny Cumbie in this group, you have to realize moving forward that you're obviously not going to make a bowl game for the 4th straight year, and you're going to leave this top 25 defense at home outside of the postseason. This defense has given you everything they have this year. They've kept you in games. They've won you games. And tonight, against a really good Arkansas offense, Taylor Green is a pretty good quarterback. I think 5 total touchdowns for him tonight. Really affected, Louisiana Tech's defense on the ground. And so it was just kind of one of those things where you look back on it and say, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Clearly, I think the play that kind of turned the tide, and again, I know Arkansas didn't score until the second quarter, but the play that turned the tide for me was Jacob Fields returns an interception to the 19-yard line, thinking, oh my gosh, Tech's going to throw the first punch here, and then you fake a field goal, you rush down to the 5. Jimmy Holiday Wildcat, that's their tried and true formula in the red zone. They love to do a Jimmy Holiday Wildcat play in the red zone. He gains 2 yards to the 3-yard line. Then you have an incomplete pass on a crossing route that falls, I think, a yard short. It was incomplete anyway, but incomplete pass. And then Eli Finley commits a false start. That moves you back to the 8-yard line. And then for whatever reason, Landon Nelson launches the ball over Evan Bullock's head back to the 25. And Bucky Buchanan, of course, then, just by the laws of football and just how, kind of bad plays turn into even worse plays, he misses a 43-yarder, giving Arkansas, kind of a break there. That was essentially, if you're asking me, that was essentially kind of where the game turned. I think that's kind of when Arkansas realized, this team is just going to hurt itself. This team is not going to execute. And again, the interception, we gave them that drive in the red zone, and they still couldn't come away with anything. So, again, I know Evan Bullock, he threw 2 touchdown passes in the second half to, Eli Finley and Jimmy Holiday. Again, no turnovers for him. He definitely took some shots in this one again. I thought for the most part the offensive line protected him pretty well. He definitely, held on to the ball a little bit too long at times, and also had some sacks that weren't really his fault as well. But just overall offensively, coming out of that Western Kentucky game, and I was first among them. I was ready to sing the praises of this team for buying in, for staying in the fight, for sticking with this coaching staff and not just flat out giving up. When it seemed like their season was all but over, and then they go to Western Kentucky and pull off the upset. And I knew coming into tonight that it was probably going to end in a loss. But I think the most frustrating part for me, and I would imagine for Tech fans, is that you can see a world where if Tech has a competent offense and an offense that comes ready to play in the first half and first quarter, this is a game. I'm not saying Louisiana Tech would have won this game, but you convert that interception into a touchdown early in the first quarter, and then you take the fumble recovery from Zach Zymos early in the second quarter. You punch that in. You're potentially up 2 touchdowns before Arkansas even has a chance to get on the board. That does something for a team that frankly came in as a massive underdog, that came in with their season on the line. And you squandered it. And I just think you have to look objectively at what this offense is and isn't. And I know, credit to Sonny Cumbie, he made the play calling change a couple of weeks ago, before that Middle Tennessee game coming out of the bye. And, certainly for that Middle Tennessee game, it looked great. Nathan Young called a nice game, and, Evan Bullock threw 6 touchdowns, and it was just an overall great performance. I think when we're looking back on it now, I think we realize that Middle Tennessee game was clearly the outlier. And this is an offense that doesn't start games fast. This is an offense that doesn't produce early. And you clearly saw that. I mean, multiple possessions. You're inside the 5 yard line, and that shows that you don't have a red zone. You don't have a red zone plan. Let's give the ball to our wide receiver on Wildcat 2 straight times. That shows me that you don't have a run game. And clearly, what did they finish with tonight? 1.2 yards per carry. Again, Marquise Crosby 8 carries for 17 yards. Jimmy Holiday 6 carries for 7 yards, and Murray Wiggins 3 carries for 7 yards. It's just one of those things that, again, it continues for this offense where they talk about we need to start fast, we need to get the run game going, we need to execute in the red zone. And then they keep saying these things, and then nothing changes. I was really struck by post-game when Sonny Cumbie mentioned, talking about the botched snap at the 5 yard line, at the 8 yard line, I should say. He said that they pump crowd noise into practice on Thursday and Fridays to kind of prepare, for an environment like this. And it definitely wasn't a sellout crowd today, but certainly loud enough, and louder than what Tech has faced, previously. And he said that they ran into the same issue Friday at practice, where for whatever reason, the center hears something or whatever and reacts, and he launches the ball, over the quarterback's head. That's one of those things to me where, if you're a coach, I don't really understand how something can happen in practice and then you roll the same players out there on game day. I think that's a sign that I think you're just willing to let the status quo be the status quo, and it clearly cost you today. Again, they made the change with Landon, at center later on. Zarian McGill came in and rotated in some, but for the most part, this offense was the same that we've seen all year for the most part. They don't score in the first quarter. They wake up late and try and make it some sort of ball game, and then by then it's pretty much too late. And so, again, it's one of those things where if you're Sonny Cumbie, you were brought in to be an offensive-minded head coach. You were brought in to be someone that could produce points here at Louisiana Tech, and now you're, I think he's 10-25 as the head coach. I think it's just one of those things where, and I know I talked about last week how I felt that Western game, might have been the start of the possibility of bringing him back. I would find it hard to believe that even if they beat Kennesaw, I guess it would take Kennesaw. You would need to win by 30 or something and put up 35, 40 points. I think for fans to maybe have some sort of hope, but I would just be surprised at this point. If this administration rolls this back. He's changed play callers, he's changed quarterbacks, he's changed offensive lines. I don't know how many chances an offense gets to improve. And again, I know it was a tough task today. Arkansas, they're pretty stout defensively. They held Texas to 20 points last week. So this defense knows how to shut teams down. But at the same time, it's not like this was the first time Louisiana Tech's offense has done this. You don't score a touchdown in your previous 2 road games before this, and then you finally get 2 touchdowns here on the road tonight. It's just one of those things where I don't really understand how players and coaches can say we want to get this fixed and we want things to change, and things are changing, and then you watch games and nothing really is changing. Again, last week you beat Western Kentucky. You kicked 4 field goals and you somehow won because your defense is so good. Again, Sam Houston, your defense holds them to 9 points and you come away with 3 because you can't execute in the red zone. It's just one of those things where it keeps piling on top of each other, and I'm not really sure at what point you just have to say. I know there's obviously 1 game left, so maybe that is the final straw. But I think it's just one of those things. I don't really understand how you continue to preach we're going to get better, we're going to get this fixed. It has to get fixed, and then week after week you start games slow. You're not competitive except for your defense, somehow keeping you in games, and then by the time you wake up offensively, for the most part, it's been too little, too late. So. Again, we'll see. They have 1 game left. Kennesaw State's not that good. They were able to pull out a win against FIU, a team that Tech lost to, and only scored 1 touchdown against. And then obviously Kennesaw was good enough to beat Liberty for 1 week, and so there's certainly a good team in there, I guess, if you're talking about Kennesaw. But I think if you're Louisiana Tech, I think the only way to potentially save changes. They have to beat Kennesaw next week, and even then, I think it's still going to be up in the air. But I think if you're 5-7, there is a path. There is a path to bring this back. Personally, I'm not sure if it's the right one, But I think at 5-7, and you talk about all the one-score losses you've had, I could see a path back, to run this back. But at the same time, if you finish 4-8, and your offense continues to look like this in year 3, I just don't know how you can sell that you are improving. And again, Sonny Cumbie mentioned post game that he thought tonight was indicative of, again, the team has uncommon belief, and they're fighting, and they're showing grit, through tough times, and they're just coming up short. And I wrote in my story post game, it's one thing to have uncommon belief, but the most common thing about this team right now is their lack of execution. And I think between the two of what is more important, or what matters more in these games, it's clearly the lack of execution. And again, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter that this team has not given up on this head coach and the staff, and they came ready to play against Arkansas. Like, I think that does matter, but at the same time, I don't really think that's not what Division I football is about. Of like, oh, we all rallied together and we're all in this like brothers. Like, I understand that that's what college football can be, and that's what locker rooms can be, but that doesn't indicate success. That doesn't indicate that you're a good program. Being a good program means we're going to hang with Arkansas. Being a good program means we're going to beat Tulsa, FIU, New Mexico State, Sam Houston. Like, the games that are there to be taken, like, we take them, and so. It's just kind of one of those things where, again, you're going to look back on the season, either 5-7 or 4-8, and you're going to be left wondering, how did we get a top 25 defense with a first-year defensive coordinator after what we saw last year defensively, and we're still not going to go bowling? And I think the answer is clear. The offense has not produced at a consistent level and has not improved. They've had flashes. They had the Jacksonville State game. They had the Middle Tennessee game. Outside of that, show me consistently where this offense has put up numbers. Again, I know they scored 17 points, in the first half against NC State. That's great. And then you score 3 the rest of the game. So it's one of those things where I can appreciate a team coming out and fighting and giving it their all for a half, but you have to win. You have to finish the job. And so I think if you're Louisiana Tech, obviously you got one game left. I think you just got to do everything you can to get to 5-7, and then depending on how that game looks, and depending on how things look offensively, maybe this runs back, and maybe Sonny Cumbie makes major offensive changes. Maybe he finds a new offensive play caller. They're going to bulk up this offensive line to protect Evan better. Add some more skill positions. I'm not sure what the answer is, but clearly something has to change offensively. And again, I know there's only one game left, so you really can't make any sweeping changes. But I think as you head into the offseason, I think you have to take a real hard look at. We had a top 25 defense this year, and as of right now, we have a 1-win improvement. And it's because of your offense. And so, again, what those answers are going forward, that remains to be seen. But for now, that's going to do it for this edition of Tech in 10. From Fayetteville, Arkansas, and from the Wrestling Daily Leader, I am sports editor Matt Bellinson saying thanks for listening. Have a good one.